Hey guys, Chris here. So I wanted to make this video because I just today impulsively ordered this adapter for the Western Rattler for a Donnie FL Emperor because I happen to have bought one. And after ordering it, I'm looking at the gun because I'm doing a different modification to it, which I'll show you at the end of this. So I'm looking at it and I take off the shroud and I take off this. They have their own suppression system that's actually, it's not finished to be a full-on silencer, but it's close enough that it's better than what's in the Emperor. I have it and I've had to open it because my slugs were all getting stuck in it after spending 2 weeks trying to fix my AEA Terminator that was never broken. It was catching slugs in the suppressor. So they've got holes in that suppressor bigger than the 357 slugs that it's shooting, which makes absolutely no sense. So this is the shroud from the Western Rattler, right? So they've got all these separate discs like a real suppressor would have, and the Emperor has nothing of the sort. They have screening zip tied around like this centerpiece right here with the holes in it without any of these rings, none of these, and there's just felt wrapped around with wire screening and zip ties on it. That's it. So I mean, they probably would cost you about $30 to make it yourself if you had the equipment and the know-how. But you know, I mean that might be the reason why most people aren't, but I guarantee you'll have the know-how to do this. So this is standard Frost King door insulation from Home Depot. Okay, so you can cut this in sections. I've been doing about roughly a foot, and then I cut this in 3. The bottom piece is wider, so I left that the whole piece. And then after, you can see these are all filled with insulation, and I'm going to tape those. On the bottom, what I did, that's Tessa tape, like you would use in your car. So Tessa tape is a very close relative to felt. So it's pretty much the same thing. I was going to wrap it in felt and grind these down a little bit and give it more clearance for when I put it back in. But I figured rather than doing the grinding, I would just fill it with the insulation, and then I would use Tessa tape on the outside. And that will also take the place of the screening because there won't be any need for it. So I'll also show you how it works afterwards, because I know in a previous video I reviewed the Western Rattler, which, update on that, the jamming issue was the air. I didn't realize how fast it was going through the air. The gun doesn't actually jam at all when you keep it hooked up to a tank, but it just goes through a lot of air because it's such a powerful gun. But it doesn't jam. It's because it was too low on air. So I mean that gun doesn't have the flow that I thought it did. So I just want to make that clear. Also, the other video that I mentioned on, I'm going to do the full, that last video that I made about making your own tension barrel for the FX Impact. I'm going to make the updated video where I actually do the whole process, and I'm going to be doing a lot more than that. I'm going to be doing the Huma air regulator. I'm going to be doing the pin probe. I got the slug pin probe from Huma Air. I got the carbon fiber sleeve. That I've done all this to my 22 and my 25 and made it my own tension barrel. But I'm gonna do all of that again for my 30 caliber on a video for you guys so you can see exactly what I did. And I did do the epoxy with the carbon fiber sleeve, and it's well worth it because, I mean, once you settle on, I don't know, if somebody's changing barrel sleeves and using different barrel sleeves, you know, inner barrels, then then don't do it. But for me, I'm keeping the 22, I'm keeping the 25, I'm keeping the 30, and they're going to be the way that they are. So they're all 700 millimeter. I haven't gotten anything shorter because I like long range shooting. But you see, this process, I only started this maybe 5 or 10 minutes before I started the video, and I'm almost done. That one piece right there, and probably not even one more, because I have these other 2 short pieces, and I'll probably have a short piece of that left. And then I'm gonna tape this all up, and I'm gonna put it back in, and I'm gonna let you guys hear it. And then I also have the Emperor, and I will shoot the AEA Terminator with slugs in it without the Emperor, and then without slugs in it with the Emperor, and then without slugs it with the Emperor on. Because I'm not going to shoot it with slugs with the Emperor on, because I've just told you the results of that. So that item's going to be returned, because it's clearly defective to be. I mean, if they're all made that way, they're all defective. It's just that simple. And I don't have any ties to any companies. I'm gonna give you the blunt, honest truth, because that's what I would want somebody to give me. And I'm not doing these videos for any other reason than to help people out. And you know, if I made the mistake, why should you make it too? So I made the mistake of buying a $250 suppressor that doesn't suppress much and catches all your slugs on the way out. So don't repeat my mistake. I actually like their FX, the one they made with FX. Maybe because FX is such a high-end company, they had to up their game. But I don't know enough about the company, so I shouldn't really say that, because I really don't know enough about the company. But from what I'm seeing from their top of the line suppressor, the one that I made the suppressor on my 30 caliber Challenger. I have an AEA Challenger that I made the suppressor for. The suppressor that I made is far superior to that Emperor. And I did that in a few hours in my shop. So, I mean, if that's their top of the line thing and their main thing is suppressors, why is it so inferior? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the company, but I do know the product that I bought. And that product that I bought is inferior to even my homemade suppressor. So, I mean, that's not saying a whole lot of good things, but I'm not trying to dig at anybody, because I'm not the type of guy to do that, but I am the type of guy to be very honest and call people out. And I'm calling them out because they made a shitty product. It's that simple. I mean, I can't speak to the rest of them. I've only bought those 2, and I don't intend on buying anymore, because I've had I had one good experience and one bad experience, but I'll just make them myself, because these are really not that hard to make. If you know anything about metalworking, welding, and a little bit of machining, and you have the equipment to do it, then there's no reason you should be buying them anyways. There's no reason I should have been buying them, because I could have made them myself the whole time, and I was just impulsive when I see it online and it's easier. I should save my money and just do it myself, but that's not in my mind at the time when I'm looking at it and I say, oh gee, I can just order it and not have to build it. But enough of that, I'm not doing that anymore. So in a couple more minutes here, as you can see what I'm doing, I have 2 different widths of Tessa tape, the fatter one and the skinnier one. I use the fatter one down here because that's the only place that it'll fit, because I'm trying to put it right between these, so these hit the cover the way that they're supposed to. Once all the insulation is taped down, and this Tessa tape will give it another layer, just like felt. As you can see, it's literally just like felt. If you've ever worked with Tessa tape, I'm sure you know what I mean. So a few more minutes here, I'll be done with this. But as you can see, I'm just pushing the insulation down in between these little spacers, which is exactly what you would use if you were to make this on your own. You would use washers with depending on the caliber, a good size hole in the middle, and then you would use a piece of 1/4 inch, 3/8, whatever was gonna be slightly larger than the caliber you're firing. You know, I mean, not slightly. You want it to be a decent amount bigger, but you don't want to go too much bigger. and then you would take the center pipe and drill holes in it that were smaller than the caliber of the slugs that you're firing, so that they don't go into the holes. Donnie FL, but I think that would be pretty obvious. And then you wrap it with something that's going to be sound deadening, like Roxol fire insulation is an incredible sound deadener, but it would be difficult to get into a silencer, which is why I'm not using it, because I have a ton of it in my shop. But this is the most appropriate stuff to use due to the space constraints. So the door insulation it worked wonders in my other suppressor that I built. It's the AEA Challenger 30 caliber, if any of you guys have one, is incredibly loud. It's incredibly loud, and I'm not going to tell you it's quiet or backdoor friendly or backyard friendly, because it's still not. But it is a dramatic amount quieter, a dramatic amount, more dramatic than the Emperor on my 35 caliber Terminator. And the 35 caliber, the 35 caliber Donnie FL Emperor, it did suppress the noise significantly. I mean, it doesn't take much to do that, because the FX Impact, the original one that it comes with, is literally an empty aluminum tube. And I used that empty aluminum tube after I bought the Donnie FL FX suppressor to make another one. So if you have the FX Impact with the original suppressor, you can do the same thing. All you've got to do is add that center tube and drill the holes in it. And after you drill the holes in the center tube, you have to just, what I would do is I would weld it. I would weld it to the outside tip, just inside the, here, actually, I'll show it to you. It's right over here. So I'll show you the other one after, when I go back into the other room where it is. It came out better than this because this is a little unfinished. I didn't really grind it down that smooth and all that. But this is the FX barrel. You know, I welded those sections that screwed together back together because they were just gonna blow apart. And then I put inside here, I did a piece of, I wanna say it was 3/8 inch conduit, metal conduit for electrical. If you didn't notice, that's what I do for a living, is home improvements, property management. So I have a lot of that stuff laying around. So I used electrical conduit that was 3/8, and that did a perfect job in the middle, because I'm doing anywhere from 22 to 30 caliber. So that was big enough to do all the way up to 30, and still have room. And I used this same insulation, and then I actually did wrap that with felt because I was making it myself. And then I put these washers over it before I did all that stuff. I put the door insulation, I spaced the washers out enough to have enough room for a whole piece of that in between them. So I spaced them out that way deliberately. And there was only like four sections. And then I drilled the holes in it. Obviously, I drilled them smaller than a 22 because I was going to be shooting 22 caliber slugs. I drilled them almost the same size as the 22 because that was the smallest caliber I was going to be shooting, but it's still too small for them to go in. But I don't know, maybe they thought the metal screening was going to stop it, but I mean, these guns just have too much power now to think that. I just don't. Anyway, so with all that being said, I am 2 pieces away from being done with this, and then I'm going to let you guys hear it after this is finished, which I'm in the middle. The other modification I'm doing to it is I'm extending the top Picatinny rail so that I have an overbore an overbore bipod, because I have an overbore bipod that I was trying to use for it. And the top rail, I actually did have my buroscope on there with the bipod on the top rail with it, and I was able to just go over the top bipod with the front objective of the scope, because that was 50 millimeter, so it wouldn't have cleared it, but it went just over it. But it just was in the middle of the gun, you know, like you want a bipod up front, obviously. So I bought a long extension, and I'm still not done. It's on there securely right now, but I have a tendency of getting fanatic with doing things when I do them until they're perfect. So I'm going to actually move I use 2 different clamps on the scope. I have put the ATNX sight on it. I used 2 different clamps with the scope, and the 2 different clamps were, excuse me, what did I use? A Monstrum, and then one of the ones that came with the ATN scope. The ATN scope ones are wider, so you see I'm just sliding this back over, threading it back on, and then when I get back in the other room, I'm gonna slide it back on the gun, and you'll see exactly what I mean. I mean, they literally give it to you with all the hard work done. So that's all you gotta do. And this is gonna quiet it down tremendously. And I'm telling you that with confidence, because I've already done it. So the Picatinny rail and the overbore are another thing. I use 2 different scope brackets with a spacer in one of them and a different screw, but it's driving me nuts. It's level, but it's just not right. So I got a pretty long extension. I'm just gonna overlap the existing Picatinny on top a little more, and then use one of the brackets that goes down and in before the end of the new Picatinny rail that's on top. Here, it's right here, I'll show you. I'll put you right there so I can put it on my table. Let me move this back a little bit. Okay. All right, so here it is in all its glory. So you can see this is the Monstrum in the front. And then in the back, that's one of the ATNs. So the ATN also comes with a mount like this. So you can see this mount is gonna go in the same spot, but it's also gonna go forward. So I only need to move that rail back, like 5 or 6 spots. But I mean, look how far up it is now. It's all the way up at the end of the barrel, and this only goes to right there. I can afford the 4 or 5 spots to make this perfect, because I want this to be perfectly level up top. So anyways, I'm gonna do that after. Right now, I'm gonna put this back on so you guys can hear it. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold. The weather here where I live is fluctuating dramatically, and it's very frustrating. We're in February already. Haven't had a snowstorm yet, and normally we have quite a bit of snow. Okay, so if you guys know anything about how loud this gun is, you're gonna know right away when I fire it what a difference that made. I didn't record myself shooting it before. I should have. Well, actually, I did in the previous video. So if you want to hear it before, you can hear that in the previous video when I did the review on it. Which you'll also see it doesn't jam, because I'll keep it full of air. I just let it get too low on air, so that was on me. All right. And also, another benefit of the overbore bipod, it essentially makes the grip act as a monopod, like on my FX Impact, if you saw that video, which like I said, I'm going to do the other video with all those other modifications. I also got the larger port for the end of the barrel from Huma Air, so that's on there as well. That's going to be on the video as well, me installing that also. So I'm going to be doing quite a few modifications in one video, but the main thing is how to make the tension barrel, because I did that in another video and the zoom was still in from when I had brought it up to the end of my range. And I want you guys to actually be able to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to be doing it on the work table where you can see it clearly. So I'm gonna take a couple shots with this. It's obviously not zero now because I just moved the scope. So I know it's still loud, but that's a dramatic improvement. It's really a dramatic improvement because that sound just like echoed so much more. I don't know how it sounds on the video yet, but it's tremendously different here in person. That's nowhere near as loud as it was before. So I'm very happy with the very little time it took instead of spending another 40 bucks on a piece of metal with threads on both sides. So obviously that order is going to be canceled real quick, and hopefully the suppressor can still be taken back. If not, it's on me. I bought it, you know, it is what it is. But hopefully, I mean, when I send them a picture of all the slugs I had to pour out of it and shake out of it, and when, look, I'll even show you, when you take this apart, this is what you have to do to take it apart. There's a threaded section on the back, pull out the front. It's literally wire screen with 3 zip ties. There's a little bit of felt inside and then another piece of screen. That's it. It's just a hollow, like I said, with the metal conduit, only I actually did the washers also, like on the Western Rattler. They put a really good sound suppression system. They just didn't insulate it, which it kept a lot of the sound from, you know, being suppressed. But with a slight modification on your own that you could easily do, anybody could easily do. I mean, if all you need is that door insulation and you cut it up into strips and put those strips in there. And if you don't have Tessa tape, what else would work? I wouldn't say like electrical tape or anything like that. I don't really, some other kind of cloth tape. I can't think of any other cloth tapes right now, but I'm sure there's some other kind of cloth tape. Something that would be not completely, wouldn't have a complete barrier, because you want the air to be able to move a little bit. You know, you don't want it completely blocked off. Or screening on the outside would work. You could use the screening like they did if you don't have access to Tessa tape, but you can buy it on Amazon for like 10 bucks for 3 rolls. So it's pretty accessible. All right, so that's it for right now. I will show you what I end up doing on the Western Rattler real quick in the beginning of the video when I get the rest of the parts in. The only thing I'm waiting on is the rest of the parts, and then I'll be showing you the modification to I'll be showing you the modification to the M3. So with the tension barrel, it's going to be a brand new barrel that I haven't touched. I have a brand new 30 caliber 700 millimeter coming in with the standard shroud, like you guys would have if you had a 30 caliber, but all of them are the same. When I modified the 25, the 22, I'm going to modify this one the same way. I'm going to show you exactly how I tap the threads, exactly why that makes it tension. I'm going to also show you a few more parts being installed. I'll probably get it started before I start the video, so you guys aren't sitting around waiting for me to do stuff for an hour. But I do have, you know, screw guns, and I've seen a lot of these videos where you're waiting for the guy to turn an Allen key for an hour, and it's just, I don't know, me personally, I'm trying to get to the point of what the video is about, and I don't feel like they're doing that, so I'm not going to be one of those guys. I'm going to try to get to the point of what the video is about. So I'll have it ready before I start it, and I'll have electric screw guns and everything ready, so I'm not turning Allen keys for an hour. Okay, so I will look forward to seeing you then. Hopefully you enjoyed this one.